Not all Jews are evil, but all evil is Jewish.
What?
Forget Abraham personality. Let's look at Abraham, the idea. No, just unite, for God's sakes.
Be whoever you are.
But unite.
And unite.
Everybody talks about Israel. I love Israel. I don't love Israel. I hate Israel. Israel is terrible. Israel is my home. So what did Abraham discover? That's a question. I think that's a big question. What happened at the foot of Mount Sinai? Love your friend as yourself for 1 year. That's the challenge. Starting now.
Starting right now.
Otherwise, we will disperse and dissolve just as every other nation has throughout history. So that's the root of anti-Semitism.
The Jew saw them all, beat them all, and is now what he always was. All things are mortal but the Jew. All other forces pass, but he remains. What is the secret of his immortality?
Okay, listen, enough of that shit. This is a podcast, and we're not going to try to find, we're going to find the solution to anti-Semitism, okay? We're going to stop that right here, right now, from this stinking basement. When we get to the bottom of this, we're going to read from this mystery book, which you're not going to find out about until the end of the series, and we're going to really entertain every perspective. We're not going to say, oh, you can't say this, you can't say that. No, we're going to say everything. Because if we're not going to be able to talk about it, we're not going to be able to solve it. We're going to really grab you in the kishke, and we're going to squeeze until we get something, right? Either a bowel movement or a freaking solution. We want to know what happened 3,500 years ago in Babylon that started this whole mishugas, and we want to finish it here in 2020. That's it. Not all Jews are evil, but all evil is Jewish.
What?
Not all Jews are evil. All evil is Jewish is something.
What are you talking about, Leo?
It's a professor of Jewish thought speaking to a friend of mine in Oxford at a conference about anti-Semitism. He was saying that the situation there is quite terrible.
Situation in Europe for Jews.
This is basically the image people have of Jews. In Europe, speaking about a second Holocaust, it's very easy to we had a couple of weeks of quiet, and it's like it feels like everybody's back to. We started this whole podcast after a March of Solidarity. Do you feel more?
It was in the air. Yeah.
Do you feel more solidarity somehow?
No, there was something in the air for a minute there,
right.
And then it just gone.
Went. Yeah,
it's like you change a channel.
Yeah, which is why we're doing this, which is why we're reading from this book, and we're trying to see if it holds some clues of history, clues into why people say what they say, why people feel what they feel. We'll get to that later. This is the Jew Function, the only podcast talking about trying to get to the root of anti-Semitism and solutions to it, using a book, a mystery book, which we are going to reveal at the end of the series. And this is episode 4. Today, we're gonna really get to the main hypothesis in this book. So this is going to be good. You really want to stay with us on this, and then maybe take some notes, Seth. This is a good time for that. I'm here with my good friend Seth.
Hi, Leo.
Poet, author, concerned citizen, also trying to figure out what the hell is going on with the Jews. Why people feel the way they do about Jews. In the last episode, we almost got into the Israeli nation. We talked about Abraham's efforts, the birth of a nation. We started to talk about what it means, what was going on in Babylon, the eruption of the ego, and Abraham, one of those local priests, doing what he was doing, worshiping these idols of wood and stone. Remember, and he had a different feel for what needs to happen when this human ego started to erupt and to take over. And he basically went out and didn't just sit by and let it like explode and be like, okay, I'll just go with the
Leo,
flow.
I have to say, I can't stand the children's stories. Okay, so I just want to say, so I know what you're talking about because I looked into this more than a little bit. This is also a time of civilization, 3,000 whatever years ago, where
the cradle of civilization,
right. Agriculture, irrigation, the invention of the wheel, exactly. 60 seconds in a minute, 60 minutes, and so something was happening in humanity. So okay, fine. As long as we're talking about it from that perspective and not from the perspective that I need to drink some kind of Kool-Aid that, like a children's story, because right away I'm kind of repulsed when, I'm not repulsed by you, but I'm repulsed by this feeling that I need to swallow some children's
I
stories.
understand.
So
Harry Potter is fine, but something about Abraham is, oh my God.
I don't want to swallow something that me as a modern adult thinks is a fairy tale. So now if we're talking about there's a time when all of a sudden the ego explodes in civilization.
Right. Let's look at the principle behind it. Okay. Forget about the story. Let's see what we can extract from it. What can we tease out of it? Okay.
Okay, I'm with you.
Forget Abraham personality. Let's look at Abraham the idea. Okay. He came up with this idea and he united people around that idea. For the first time, I think there was a group of people that assembled around an idea. Not a tribe. Not an extended family, not a ethnic.
This is when I heard about this is the coolest kind of concept ever. You have all of these different nations together, all different clans and tribes. All these different people came together and kind of made a nation around an idea. That's amazing.
Right. So that's a breakthrough.
That's amazing.
That's already an amazing thing. I'm proud to be Jewish just because of that. Let's read what it says about this nation.
Okay, out of our mystery book?
Yeah, from our mystery book, starting a little bit before the section we're going to read today. But it's important. Everybody talks about Israel. I love Israel. I don't love Israel. I hate Israel. Israel is terrible. Israel is my home, birthright, this, that. We have all this. But I don't think anyone has looked at Israel in the way Abraham was looking at it when that nation was conceived. So let's...
Well, by the way, he conceived the nation in the cradle of civilization, which was modern-day Iraq.
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah. I don't know if you knew at the time that's what's going to happen, but that's what he was, at least that was the idea he was going for. So let's read it from Indeed.
Indeed. Israel is not really a name of a people. In Hebrew, the word Yisrael is a combination Yisrael is a combination of two words, Yashar,
straight,
and El,
God. Also towards, right? Also the word El means towards, also means God, also means towards. So it's straight towards or straight towards God.
In other words, we're good to understand what God means, but that's, I guess, that's another part that'll be in our next podcast. Okay.
Series.
In other words, Israel designates a mindset of wanting to discover the united root, the force of life. So clearly, we're not talking here about God as some hocus pocus. We're talking about some force, some united
force in nature.
Okay, fine. It's a desire to attain or to perceive the Creator. Okay,
nature.
Okay, fine. Rabbi Meir ben Gabbai said about it, quote, in the meaning of the name Israel, there is also Yashar El.
Simple.
Likewise, the great Ramchal wrote succinctly, Israel, Yashar El. Put differently, more than a name, Israel designates a state of being, the direction of the desire that drove Abraham to his discoveries.
Okay, so Israel is not just a state in the Middle East. It's not just the... in elementary school, you read the story about the Bible, Jacob fighting the angel, Sarael. He kind of went against the Creator or against this divine force, and that was the birth of the nation. And that was kind of like the end of it, right? Like this group that defies something, which is hard to grasp even to now. But this one suddenly sounds much more direct. Like, we have a different goal. We're going straight to the Creator, which we talked about actually in last episode, this force of nature, this one force in nature, which we said, we can exchange nature, Creator. It's just one system, one force.
Whatever that singular force is that operates everything.
A law, right? So there's a law, and they're going to try to find that law.
He's using this language, and these rabbis, quote rabbis, not a rabbi like a guy who has a place down the street here. These are great people that we're talking about here.
We have nothing against rabbis.
They called this thing El. We translate it as God. They called it this force, this singular force. Okay.
Right. So
I just need to keep reminding ourselves that we're talking about something real. We're not talking about.
We'll include the glossary at the end of the podcast.
Okay, fine. As long as we do.
Also, you can probably see some of that in Seth's book, Jew, an antidote to anti-Semitism. So that was his premise. He gathered these people, representatives from all the nations, all those tribes that lived there. He said, who wants to go there? While everybody was busy, stabbing each other in the back and hiking prices everywhere and overcharging for fixing your horse. This guy said, well, let's try to do something above it. Not just go with the flow, like everybody else might have done in that same situation. Oh, you can't fight it. You can, just go with it. He said, no, I'm going to go above it. I'm going to try to go straight to where it's coming from. That was his kind of premise. And so we get to the root of anti-Semitism. I think this is the part that everybody listening for already 3 episodes wanted to get to. What is the hypothesis? What really is this book saying the root of anti-Semitism is? So what did Abraham discover? Maybe that will bring us into that. Maybe even start from the, Abraham's struggle from the top there.
The root of anti-Semitism. Abraham's struggle to instill the principle of balance was more than an attempt to save his hometown community. Abraham discovered that the egoism in humanity was an ever-growing beast, and without a working method to contain it, it would destroy everything. In the quote at the beginning of this chapter, Mark Twain mentions some of the greatest empires in history and asks how come they all declined and vanished into dream stuff while the Jews did not. The answer to his question is simple. Other nations succumbed to their growing egoism, which eventually disintegrated their societies and caused their downfall.
That answers that Mark Twain, right? King Solomon wrote,
"Hate stirs up strife, and love will cover all crimes." The Midrash, written many centuries later, stressed, "One does not leave the world with half of one's wishes in one's hand. For one who," my father used to say something like this to me, "For one who," you give him, or Bob Marley, you give him a hand, they take whatever. One does not leave the world with half of one's wishes in one's hand. For one who has 100 wants 200, and one who has 200 wants 400.
Yeah, human nature.
In the 19th century, Nathan Sternhartz, the disciple of Rabbi Nachman of Breslov, compiled the book Likutei Halachot, which his teacher had instructed. Consistent with the principles of matching hatred with love of others in order to maintain balance, Steinhartz wrote, "The vitality is mainly through unity, by all the changes being included in the source of unity. For this reason, love your neighbor as yourself is the great rule of the Torah, to include in unity and peace. The vitality, sustenance, and correction of the whole creation are mainly by people of different views becoming included together in love, unity, and peace." I love that, Leo. In other words, we must not only cover our hatred with love, but rather keep doing so persistently. Because our egoism grows, so must our unity. Otherwise, we will disperse and dissolve just as every nation has throughout history.
What I find fascinating is that it says the great rule of the Torah. Grew up on it in Israel also. Ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, klal gadol b'Torah. Right? It's,
love your friend as yourself. It's the great rule of the Torah.
Everybody says it, but then it's like, wait, is this a great rule of the Torah? Like, yeah, but forget about it for a second. There's like there's like 600 and something other rules that we're going to look to for. I'm like, wait a second. But this is the great rule, right? The rule is from the word klal, right? In Hebrew, the thing that includes, right? The collective, the inclusive, right? That's the word for klal, for rule. So the rule, the klal, the collective includes all the details. So why even bother with all the other little things if we can go to that? Let's try that. How about we try that for a while? And not only that, he says, you have to not just do it once or like an International Kindness Day or something like that. It's like, no. Every day is International Kindness Day because our egoism grows, so must our unity. Otherwise, we will disperse and dissolve just as every other nation has throughout history.
When you have a group of dogs or you have a group of a certain kind of animal, even you take it to the human level, you have a certain country where everyone's homogeneous, it's much easier to have less crime and everything. Everyone kind of has the same religion.
Homogeneous.
Homogeneous. Has the same religion, the same background, the same foods, all those kind of things. When you put together different people with all different views, all different religions, all different foods, this one's vegetarian, this one's carnivore, right? Then you can, and they have to live together. So that's what I'm thinking when you came to Babylon. It's one thing when everybody lived very tribally. Very much in their own, it's kind of very close to nature, right? Like Aboriginal people, they know when it's going to rain. They're in touch with the animals. They have the spirits of the animals. Then you bring all these people together. It's,
we're talking 3 million people living, that's like Chicago, right?
And each one has their different kind of belief system about, the family roots, where they come from, the kind of things they do. So it's like, it's the modern Babylon today. You have all of these people jammed together, all these different views clashing. The ego, of course. I mean, when we look at the...
Right. No, and no wonder that already back then people rejected that idea. Like, get out of here. Okay. Love your friend as yourself. All right. Hold on. I'm selling some watermelons here. Can we talk about it later? I mean, but it's like that, right? When calamity strikes, we talked about it, first chapter, I think, episode.
Yeah.
9/11 happened, everybody nice for 3 weeks. As soon as everything's back to normal, that's
well,
it.
like after this anti-Semitism explosion here in America, it's like already was it 10 years ago? It feels, I mean, it was 10 minutes ago, but it feels like it's like over, it's finished.
Yeah. So no wonder they rejected him, and because again, it was the unnatural thing to do. The natural thing was to go with that feeling. I feel like I have to take care of myself. You will come next. I promise. Eventually we'll get to you. First me. And
the problem with that is tomorrow I have a new desire that I need to take care of for myself. And then I have another desire that I need to take care of for myself. I never have time for you.
Once 200, right?
So I've never have time to take care of you.
That's the thing. And Abraham insists, no, we have to do it or we fall.
The chasm that is open then between Abraham, his students, and the rest of the Babylonians is still open today. It is the root of this irrational hatred we call anti-Semitism. Although for the most part, people do not know why they hate the Jews. Whether
hold on. This is a big thing, because for 4 episodes we say we're going to get to the root of it. So what is the root of it again? The chasm, the rift between Abraham and his students, right? The future nation of Israel, the future Jews, and the rest of the Babylonians. Those who say, love your friend as yourself, and those who say, forget about it.
Or not even forget about it, but it's just not on it's not in their consciousness.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
That's the root of anti-Semitism. Okay, that's a big statement.
Yeah, wow. Okay, let's write it down in our notebooks.
Yeah. And forget about it tomorrow. No, well, it's a big statement. Let's keep going. Let's see what they say.
Although for the most part, people do not know why they hate the Jews, whether consciously or not. They feel that the Jews symbolize both something that they ought to do, namely to unite above their egos, and that the Jews are meant to be an exemplary nation that lives out that unity and thereby sets a role model.
So this brings me back to my friend's interviews in Oxford, right? So he's talking to Professor Patterson, which, by the way, we also talked to in one of our conversations with one of our honest conversations on our YouTube channel, The Jew Function. And he said, well, first of all, just to put it in context, so we're talking about, this is Oxford conference about anti-Semitism. You gather the best minds, the best, speakers, professors, academics, people researching this phenomenon. And they all come together and they talk about the study of anti-Semitism. But outside of the conference, my friend is having talks with them, and they're not talking about some theoretical issue. They're talking about anti-Semitism against them on campus while they're having that conference about anti-Semitism. And he's saying humanity has all these other distractions, right? Has these, the drugs and alcohol and movies and shopping and all these little sedatives. And they just want to have a nice little sleep. But Jews are telling them, no, this is what you have to do. You have to engage in loving the other.
So as a Jew, I get the Jewish newsletter every month that all of us Jews get that tells us what we're supposed to do. So I know what you mean.
Right. and it's because...
Hold on, wait.
No, but I just to finish that, but we'll get to your newsletter. Just to finish that, and it's that notion that tries to awaken everyone that people don't like. And when you try to wake them up, people will even kill you just to stay asleep. Right? It's like that Easy Rider film, right? When you try to tell people they don't have free choice, you know what they do? They take out their gun. I don't know. I'm not quoting, I'm paraphrasing. They'll show you they have free choice by shooting you, right? Something like that. It's a very subtle thing. It's a very scary thing even. So I get it. And I get why the newsletter hasn't reached everyone.
Well, I'm just saying that it's like almost unconscious or subconscious, or it remains from the past or something, because people, I don't think that Jews are, I'm sure they're not conscious of this quality.
That's a question. I think that's a big question.
When they come, when the Nazis came and said your grandma was 1/4 Jew, did they take 1/4?
Oh yeah, 1/4 is good.
So you're 1/4. You're intermarried. You're working as a regular German citizen. What do you mean? I'm not a Jew. I don't even do Passover. I do nothing. What are you talking about? But it's still counted. So that's what I mean. Like
the last people on the trains were the Jews that already converted to Christianity.
So there's something
irrational. We say it's irrational.
But what the book is saying, what you're saying is that the Jews have this thing that they keep. Humanity wants to relax, and the Jew keeps nudging them forward
unwittingly.
He doesn't even know it sometimes.
Yeah, that's the toughest point. What happened at the foot of Mount Sinai?
The foot of Mount Sinai, when Moses united the fugitives from Egypt, and they accepted the law we call Torah, which means law.
Torah, instruction, right?
They accepted it only because they complied with the condition to be, quote, as one man with one heart. Also, again, sounds like Bob Marley.
Yeah, I remember.
Subsequently, I wonder where he got it. Subsequently, they were declared a nation and were given the task to be a light unto the nations.
Oh, the light.
The light that the Jews were meant to bring was not some celestial aura, but rather the law of unity that Abraham discovered, and which they, at the foot of Mount Sinai, had committed to implement in their society. It was an approach to life that enables human beings to rise above their egos and create a balanced, thriving society that lives in homeostasis. Ever since the Jews were given that task, hatred towards them grew when they were not united and were therefore not a light to the nations, and diminished or even disappeared when they conducted their relationships with one another positively and thereby set an example that others would want to emulate.
Okay, that was that. Whoa, maybe this is worth reading again.
Okay, everybody. Ever since the Jews were given that task
of spreading this unity, right?
Hatred towards them grew when they were not united and were therefore not a light unto the nations, and it diminished or even disappeared when they conducted their relationships with one another positively and thereby set an example that others would want to emulate. Leo, let's unite the Jews.
Well, that's a radical idea.
Let's unite the Jews. Let's do it.
That's the radical idea, I think, and that's the idea that when I talk to people, again, it's like going back to that rule in the Torah that we'll get to at the end. People say, "Well, this is not practical. We need to there's anti-Semitism going on. People are shooting Jews. We need guns, or we need some other things." It feels so elusive. Like, wait, I'm going to be nice to you, and suddenly all this other stuff is going to disappear.
There's a little bit of nuance. I think the nuance that's worthwhile to bring up is if we're talking about nature. We said that the Yashar El has something to do with nature. Okay, so in nature doesn't have a problem if one creature wants to live in a hole in the ground, and another one wants to build an elaborate. I just saw someone posted on my Facebook wall. My kids are embarrassed that I'm still watch Facebook. So, of some caterpillar that builds this like unbelievable, immaculate house with different logs going different ways. So nature doesn't say, "Oh, you're so vain," and the other one is. All the creatures can be however they are, and they can all live in nature together. And when it comes to what you just asked, your question, doesn't mean that a Jew that he's Republican, he has to become Democrat, or he's Democrat, he has to become Republican. I think
who cares about that?
Well, everybody basically except us. But this premise of unity, it doesn't mean like everybody should just be whitewashed and become the exact same thing.
No, it should just unite, for God's sakes.
Be whoever you are,
but unite.
And unite.
Yeah, you want to be a blood cell, be a blood cell. You want to be a brain cell, be a brain cell. You want to be a muscle tissue, be a muscle tissue.
One body.
One body.
I got the chills.
Yeah, it's almost too simple. But I think that the thing that we're missing, the thing that sounds metaphysical, the thing that sounds unreal, is due to the fact we're not tying it with nature, to nature. We think human emotions are outside of nature. Oh, there's gravity, but I still feel the way I feel to you, or I don't feel the way. People like disconnect the two. They don't question where they get their feelings and what they have to do with them, if they have any choice in the matter. And we think that, I feel something and I go with it, right? That's that we're going back to Abraham. I just go with it. I feel like taking care of me, numero uno, and you'll come next, if at all, and we'll collaborate as
that's as well as it fits for me.
Neil Donald Walsh, we have him in an old film we did, Crossroads. He says, well, I'm ready to work with you, and if our interests align, then, I'm ready to do things together. But if they don't align, then I may not like you. I may even have to kill you, right? It's like very natural. But he's saying, no, you have to be always above that inclination. That's the thing.
Midrash Tana de Eliyahu, an ancient commentary on the Torah, writes, quote, "The Lord said to them, to Israel, my sons, have I lacked anything that I should ask of you? And what do I ask of you? Only that you love one another, respect one another, and fear one another, and that there will be no transgression, theft, and ugliness among you." Now
replace the word Lord with nature.
Literally?
Yeah, let's try it. Let's see how it feels.
And the nature said to them, to Israel, to those who were directed straight to nature, "My sons, have I lacked anything that I should ask of you? And what do I ask of you? Only that you love one another, respect one another, and fear one another, and that there will be no transgression, theft, and ugliness among you."
And it's so natural because the funny thing is that. Funny. It's not funny. It's just, in kindergarten, we teach kids, get together. If you take one stick and you break it, it breaks. If you take a bunch of sticks and you try to break him, you can't break him. It's like, it makes sense to be together. And yet only when an outside threat comes, we do it. We don't bother doing it at any other time. And even now, when there is threat, we're still debating if we should.
Very painful point that, God forbid something terrible happened, we would unite for real. Is it possible that we could somehow proactively muster up those feelings, whatever feeling that is, in order to do it before the calamity?
That's the challenge. I think that's the difference between being an animal. Oh, the wolves are closing in. We should get in the huddle. And being a human, right? A wise person has his eyes in his head. You know what's coming.
I think the issue we'll have to expand on this at some point, is our emotions. They want to rest. They don't want to really look at what's really happening because it's too big. It seems too out of control. It seems totally out of my control, that I'm going to control the presidential election and what's going on with.
I think we're not giving nature enough credit. We keep forgetting.
We keep thinking we're in control of everything. Yeah. That's right. That's exactly right. That's what it feels like when I think that everything is too much and it's out of my control and I don't know what to do and the problems are too.
I mean, not to be like, play the religious card, right, or anything like
then
that.
Don't play it.
Because we're not. But I'm just thinking, I loved astronomy when I was growing up. I loved, the universe and all of that.
You loved the universe when you were growing up?
Yeah, I loved the universe. It was my favorite. My nanny at the time, she didn't like it. She's like, I don't want to look at the star. I'm like, aren't you curious about what's happening? Where's it coming from? Like, no, I don't. It scares me. I don't look at the stars. I looked at the stars. I liked it, and it's. When you think about everything that had to happen to get us to where we are, the Big Bang and the galaxies and the contraction and expansion and heat and cold and all that stuff and the vastness of space and the solar system and billions of years for that to just cool off and then something smashes into Earth and a piece flies off and it's the moon and then that cools off and the crust and then the continents, Pangea and the dinosaurs and the plants and blah, 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 blah. And then we come like, hey, I'm in control of this.
I'm going to get a coffee. It's like...
the vanity of that, forget anything. Just a little humility towards nature is all I'm saying. It's,
our problem. We can't see past 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 5 years.
All right, today, if it's not written on a web page, then it didn't happen. What is, we have Rabbi Kalanimus Kalman Halevi, one of the seminal books of Hasidut, right? 17th century Hasidut. What does he write in Ma'or Shemesh, Light and Sun?
He says that he may establish you today as his people, means that by this you will have revival. You will be saved. So nature is saying this to us. Nature will establish us as his people, means that by this you will have revival. You will be saved from calamities. Afterwards, he said to Israel, not with you alone am I making this covenant, meaning that being saved from any harm by bonding was not promised only to Moses' generation, rather, but with those who stand here with us today and with those who are not with us here today, meaning that all future generations have been promised it to pass through all the bludgeons of the covenant, and that through the unity and bonding that will be among them, they would not be harmed.
Amazing. And then Rabbi Yitzchak Eliyahu also talks about the connection, that explicit connection between Jewish unity and what happens as a result of its absence. And again, we're just quoting, this book, we're just quoting from our own people, right? Talking about it openly.
Love, peace, and loathe division. Great is the peace, for even when Israel practiced idol worshipping, there's peace among them. The Creator says, I wish not to touch them. As it is written, quote, Ephraim is joined to idols, let him alone. If there's a division among them, what is it said about them? Their heart is divided. Now they will bear their guilt.
Ugh. And in the 20th century?
And in the 20th century, previously mentioned Rav Yehuda Ashlag stressed the practical benefits of implementing unity in our lives. Quote, the matter of social unity, which can be the source of every joy and success, applies particularly among bodies and bodily manners in people, and the separation between them is the source of every calamity and misfortune.
This is the guy who tried to warn the entire Polish Jewry about the impending Holocaust.
And they spit in his face.
They excommunicated him. He moved to Israel. 3 million Jews perished.
In Poland, and him and his family lived.
We're getting ahead of ourselves. It's... I
had a spark in this episode. There was something really exciting that happened.
It's exciting because I think we're feeling what
I fell in love with you again.
It's I think it's important that we stay connected. If anything, I learned anything from this episode is connection good, disconnection bad.
Yeah.
You know what? I would like to do it as a social experiment. For 1 year, all the Jews are just...
Could you imagine?
Just nice to each other, caring.
Could you imagine?
But really, that's all they do. They don't care about the business. They don't care about...
No. How about... Okay, fine. But what if they still... Whatever business they're in, whatever they do.
Yeah. I'm saying the heart. Where's the heart? Am I going like, no, I'm going to... how's Seth is doing? What's going on? What's going on?
Such a small group of people, and they could do it.
They can do it.
Start small. Start just with these people.
Just
let them do it for 1 year. See what happens.
Yeah, exactly.
See if it affects anyone else.
Yeah, take 9 other people in your life and form a circle and say, we're going to try to be connected about anything.
Can we reach all the Jewish people and tell them for 1 year?
Maybe just one circle of Jews. Maybe we start with 10. Right? I mean,
each one.
They talk about minyan, right? It's like maybe we'll get to the whole minyan thing. Forget about everything else. Focus on the great rule of the Torah, right? Love your friend as yourself for 1 year. That's the challenge.
Starting
now.
Starting right now.
This is the Jew Function, and we're here every week to try to find an answer to the oldest hatred, the root of anti-Semitism, and hopefully the solution to it, which I think we touched on today. Please follow us on Twitter and Facebook at The Jew Function, YouTube, The Jew Function, and of course, thejewfunction.com for the complete self-study experience on the connection between anti-Semitism, network science, and all of that. Next week, well, first of all, I just want to say that we started with this big bomb from Oxford and the looming second Holocaust, which I hope we can avert. Next week we're going to go a little fast forward and look at self-hatred in antiquity. You like that? Self-hatred in antiquity. We go from Egypt, and we're going to come out of Egypt all the way to we're going to start coming out of Egypt towards the first temple, whatever that means. The book says a lot of things about it. So stay with us next week. I'll be here. Seth will be here. Let's try that year of unity.
Good night, everyone.